Kamala Harris, the vice president, in Washington, planting a memorial pomegranate tree on the grounds of the vice presidential residence. She also delivered remarks promising to ensure Israel has what it needs to defend itself. President Biden, meantime, holding a candle lighting at the White House. He did not make any comments. You were involved, Joel, with this today, with speaking to the senior-most folks here in town. I found it interesting. The president sort of, I don't want to say took a back seat, but he let Kamala Harris be the one to speak today on this 3 weeks down the home stretch, not the commander-in-chief.
Well, you know, Blake, I think this is the Biden-Harris team working together since October 7th. And I'll speak from the heart. I was at the Israeli embassy today for a commemoration of what happened a year ago, the horrific attacks against Israel by Hamas, a terrorist organization that should not exist. And it was bipartisan. It was official in the sense of really bringing people together. And I think that's what we see with the vice president in the way that she is leaning into this with a solemnity that it deserves. There was a fact sheet that did go out that the Biden administration, with the support of Congress, both sides of the aisle, both chambers, has moved $18 billion over to Israel since the beginning of the war last year. And I think that's the kind of leadership that we need. So President Biden, he's been out front significantly. I think the vice president, she too, has been very strong on this, and it shows.
Real quick, what do you think we're going to hear out of Donald Trump here momentarily?
He's going to 100% support Israel. If you think about what Donald Trump did during his presidency with the Abraham Accords, who thought that would ever happen with their trade agreement with the region, also with moving the embassy to Jerusalem, no one said he would ever going to be able to do that. Donald Trump and Republicans all support, and 100%, not the funding with restrictions, which is what the Biden administration is doing.
That's not, this is bipartisan. What the Biden team has done, and I apologies for interrupting, but it's a bipartisan issue. The support for Israel is long-standing bipartisan support, and we need to stick to that. I think the problem...
There's some parts of your party who need to stick to that.
There are some that need to be quiet, without a doubt. But Donald Trump has tried to politicize this, as I say it gently, has been politicizing the Israel relationship to try to gain votes, and that's not along the lines of long-standing American tradition towards Israel.
Real quick, I thought the dynamic today at the vice president's home was really interesting. Doug Emhoff, her husband, who is painfully lost and is Jewish, spoke after the vice president. The vice president spoke first, and then her husband spoke after that. And I think normally she would be the last to speak. And I think she did that in deference to not only his Jewish faith, but also the pain that he's suffering.
I'll give you the last word here. Donald Trump.
Look, it's hard to commemorate something that isn't over yet. And we still have hostages in the Middle East. We still have Americans being held. And this is something that we need to remain completely steadfast on. You're absolutely right. It shouldn't be partisan. Unfortunately, it has become so. And we need to remind Israel that we are steadfast in support, and they are fighting not just their own enemy, they are fighting an enemy that calls us the great Satan in Iran.
To your point, there are 4 Americans who are still being held hostage by Hamas, a foreign terrorist organization, designated so by President Clinton, and remaining a foreign terrorist organization, whether it's been a Democratic or Republican administration. Every single one rightfully has kept that designation, and tonight 4 Americans, a year later, still remain hostage.